US President Donald Trump will reportedly present a peace deal to Arab leaders when he meets with them this week. The White House has also listed Mr. Trump's upcoming meetings for this week, and it doesn't include one with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. ABC's Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran joins us now from Jerusalem. Now, Matt, what do we know about this proposed peace deal that President Trump will reportedly present to Arab leaders?
Well, the details are pretty scant at this stage, but we can assume that there will be a couple of elements to it, dealing with things such as what happens when and if the IDF withdraw from parts of Gaza, how that withdrawal could happen in the future, something which is a key sticking point in the current negotiations on a ceasefire and hostage deal. It would also look at what role other countries in the region could be playing to secure Gaza into the future, and indeed how the rebuilding process will go once the war is over, something which may seem a distant dream at this stage, but something which Donald Trump wants to make a key part of his legacy. He has referenced many times during the course of his presidency, and indeed the campaign ahead of that, that he wants to bring about an end to a number of conflicts around the world, and the Gaza one is one of those on the top of his agenda, something that the White House has a key role in playing, considering that Mr. Trump is effectively the only world leader that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, listens to, and key members of the Trump administration, including the Special Envoy for the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, are central to the negotiations between Israel and Hamas on any ceasefire and hostage deal. So we'll wait to see exactly what is in this plan, how detailed this plan is. But Arab nations have already put forward their own proposal for the management, the governance and the rebuilding of Gaza, something which has been rejected so far by the Israeli government.
Has there been any response from the Israelis and what they think of this proposal?
It's interesting to note just how quiet the Israeli government is being at the moment, but we do need to point out it is the Jewish New Year, so there is a holiday period being observed in Israel, and that means that we aren't necessarily seeing the instant responses or criticism or backing of these sort of measures. Also, as I mentioned, the details of this peace plan from Donald Trump at this stage are very scant. Surely people within the Israeli government have an idea of what will be in it, but it isn't necessarily public. So that sort of reaction could start to flow in the next short while. Once we get those details, whatever details Donald Trump puts on the table, that may well prompt that reaction to start there. But Israel is certainly firm in its position on how the war in Gaza should be continuing, under what circumstances it should be brought to an end, and that is dramatically at odds with the position put forward by Hamas and backed by a number of Arab leaders around this region.
As we know, Australia has joined a number of nations in recognising Palestinian statehood. What has their reaction been like from both Palestinians and other regional leaders?
Well, it would be hard-pressed to find anyone within the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian community who's going to say that this is a bad idea. What the concern is how this symbolic gesture, and as much as the Australian government and others will say this goes beyond symbolism, there is a heavy amount of symbolism at play here. What will be the key there, and what a number of Palestinian leaders and members of the community are worried about, is how this actually translates into any sort of tangible benefit to their lives. We were in Ramallah yesterday in the occupied West Bank, just a short drive from here in Jerusalem, but over the other side of Israel's barrier wall. And there was a sense of welcoming this news from Australia and from countries such as the UK, Canada, France, Spain, Portugal among them as well, but also this sense that it needs to be backed up with greater pressure on Israel to curb its actions, not only in Gaza, which is of course the front and centre of the mind of many Palestinians and people right around the world at the moment as that war there drags into its second year, but also in the West Bank, where there has been a significant crackdown on the freedoms of Palestinians in recent months, and indeed since the beginning of that war in Gaza back in October 2023, prompted by Hamas's deadly attacks on Israel, where 1,200 people were killed, more than 250 indeed were taken hostage there. The death toll in Gaza now in excess of 65,000 people, according according to local health authorities. And Palestinians want to see greater pressure put on Israel to stop them from continuing this intense military offensive we're seeing in the Strip. The Gaza City mission there to take control of that has resulted in the displacement of hundreds of thousands of people. And in the West Bank, the daily lives of Palestinians there are greatly impacted too by roadblocks, checkpoints, the expansion of Jewish settlements, the violence that Jewish settlers are inflicting on the Palestinian community. For all of the talk around Palestinian statehood, there hasn't really been any immediate change in the conditions for the Palestinian population, and many are cautious, if not pessimistic, that it will actually prompt any sort of change without greater pressure from the international community and countries including Australia.
Another talking point has been President Trump's schedule at the UN this week, and it doesn't include a meeting with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, something that we know he's been trying to chase. Could this be in response to Australia's recognition of Palestinian statehood?
I mean, trying to get an interview or trying to get a meeting with the president is going to be a tricky task at the best of times. Whoever is managing a world leader's diary would know that for sure. But you would have to say that, yes, this recognition of Palestinian statehood, that may well be playing into it. We know that Donald Trump is not happy with that. He has been expressing those sentiments through the White House's press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, about not only Australia but other countries that are allies of the United States, Canada, France, the UK among them, saying that he does not believe this is the right approach, that this is rewarding Hamas for its October 7, 2023 attacks on Israel, something that those countries, including Australia, have rejected. I think to say that this is solely based on that Palestinian recognition situation might be a bit too narrow. I think certainly in terms of the priorities that Donald Trump has while the UN General Assembly is happening, he may well be looking at other world leaders wanting to meet them before Anthony Albanese. But there has, of course, been a lot of talk about this and what this says about the relationship between Washington, D.C. and Canberra, whether or not it is in a sort of icy period there. And that sort of commentary will only continue throughout the course of the week if indeed Donald Trump and Anthony Albanese do not meet. Someone Donald Trump is meeting this week, however, is the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The pair have met a number of times since Donald Trump returned to the White House in January this year. That goes to show where Benjamin Netanyahu sits in the list of priorities compared to Anthony Albanese.
Matthew Doran from Jerusalem, thank you for joining us.